Ravens at Bills, Sunday night, Lamar versus Josh Allen. So many intriguing matchups in this one, so much intrigue. But we've seen this one before. In September, the Ravens won, going away, 35-10. That's why maybe they're favored in this one by 1.5. Kyle, I'm going to start with you. Which matchup are you looking for that could decide this outcome?
All right. So I think it was about a year and a half ago. I was talking to my older brother, Chris, and I was talking to him about his two young boys, and they weren't quite old enough to play football yet. And he said, well, I'm getting Waylon, his eldest, into football, and I've got him watching just Matt Milano highlights on YouTube. And I think that Matt Milano's absence during the preseason from this defense, from that locker room, from their culture, led me to believe that this was not going to be a Super Bowl contender. But lo and behold, Josh Allen has put the team on his back. Matt Milano and the Cavalry has arrived for this defense, and it's going to be Derrick Henry versus Matt Milano. And, you need to have not only someone who's physically gifted enough, but somebody who is willing to go do the dirty work when you're playing against Derrick Henry. And at these mesh points, your eyes have to be right all the time. And I think the easiest way to give Matt Milano the green light to go hunt down his prey, which is probably the biggest, the biggest game he could ever have, is Derrick Henry. So throughout the course of this game, it's Derrick Henry versus Matt Milano within the tackle box. And if Matt Milano's read is to play the keep, it's Lamar Jackson getting to that first down marker and Matt Milano running his tail off to try to get Lamar cut off at the pass. That's what I can't wait to watch.
Hey, Kyle, I actually have the same matchup because Matt Milano did not participate in the first meeting against Baltimore. Derrick Henry just had his way against their defense. He had 199 yards on 24 carries. And you see how important Matt Milano is. When he is in the lineup, he's like the quarterback for their defense. He makes the calls, makes the adjustments. And it's something about the morale. It feels different when he's in the lineup. So I'm right there with you. So for sake of argument, I'll throw out another matchup that I'm looking forward to see, flourish in this ball game. Which pass catcher is going to show up in the passing game for Josh Allen? Because if you look at what he's done, he's been a great quarterback in distributing to the who's of who, right? He doesn't have that one reliable guy to rely on. But one thing we've learned with Baltimore, since moving Kyle Hamilton back to his post area spot, their secondary has been better. Marlon Humphrey hasn't been a true lockdown defender. Wiggins has really grown in the defense as well. So they've done a great job in keeping the roof on the house, to say the least, not allowing any splash plays. And we know how great Josh Allen has been. But in critical moments of this ball game, it's a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. You got to move the chains. Who is going to show up for the Buffalo Bills in the passing game? Because till this point, you can't really identify one guy, because it's been a little sprinkle of this player, a little sprinkle of that player. But in moments like in playoff football, you need to have that guy you can rely on to be able to move the chain. So that's a matchup, because if you look at just the musical chairs at that position, it could be this guy on one game day, this guy on another day. We don't really know who can be identified as the ultimate playmaker in the passing game for the Bills.
I 100% agree with both of you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the very first matchup, those were what decided it. For the Bills, obviously, they couldn't stop Derrick Henry. And for the Ravens, they locked down those Bills wide receivers. They were playing man coverage in their face, and Josh Allen had nowhere to go. But why, if you're a Bills fan, and there's a lot of hope for this one, it's not only Matt Milano that's here that wasn't there the first time. There's Amari Cooper on the offense side of the ball, who is a guy who can beat man coverage. He may not get featured in the offense, but if you got one-on-ones across the board, you can trust that he's probably going to win his matchup. And then also on your defense, you have Terrell Bernard, the other linebacker who wasn't there, and you have Teron Johnson, the slot corner, who didn't play the first time around. So you have a lot of pieces that make you think you'll have a better chance this time around. But the one thing that I keep going back to, especially with the matchup Kyle highlighted, is that Matt Milano's 223 pounds. Terrell Bernard's 225 pounds. Teron Johnson's 192 pounds. This is a defense that relies on trying to create havoc to stop the run. And if that's not the case, if they don't know necessarily where to go, if you got option runs, and if you're really holding them, if they're frozen at the second level, and Derrick Henry's coming on you with a full head of speed, Kyle, I don't know if I trust even Matt Milano with that Peck that's still getting hampered.
B-Mac said
I don't know
he
if I
got
trust
hit
it.
in Pee Wee football and it switched him to defense. I had the same experience, so I was just like, well, I'm too fat to chase tight ends and receivers, so I'm going to go play offensive line so I can do the hitting. The matchup, in my opinion, outside of the Derrick Henry-Milano one, which is going to be much advertised and it's going to be must-see TV, is the boring stuff. It's Aaron Cromer's offensive line, which we've talked about the entire season, and James Cook, and the ability for Joe Brady and this offense to control not only the line of scrimmage, but to control that clock, time of possession. It's going to be very cold. Our guy Lamar Jackson, he's from down here in South Florida. I almost had to put a hoodie on when I went out this morning, and it was about 65 degrees. In no way am I questioning his toughness, but Buffalo, for any human being, is cold. Keep him on the sideline, keep his heart rate down, and hope to God that somehow slows down his offensive attack. So James Cook and the offensive line.
And if it snows or if it's snowing during the game, that would help the defenders on the defensive side of Buffalo, because that would make Derrick Henry take those Peter-Patter steps, those little choppy steps, because he has to gather himself because of the traction or the lack thereof on that turf with the snow. Because you remember when they played Christian McCaffrey in the 49ers, and Christian kind of had to slow things down a little bit because the traction before leaving that ball game was a bit, was difficult. And if you're not familiar with playing in that type of condition, those conditions, it can be a big adjustment for you. And I think that would be great for the defenders for Buffalo. If there is snow, you don't have to worry about that train getting at its top speed as fast as he can in normal conditions.
I am hoping it's snow. I think that'd be a very fun cap to this divisional round.